This episode is brought to you by Death on the Nile, exclusively in theaters February 11th. The greatest detective of all time, Hercule Poirot, returns to solve another deadly case. Join Poirot on a wild ride down the Nile River, promising luxury, intrigue, and murder. Grab your friends and get ready to solve this murder mystery on the big screen, starring Kenneth Branagh and Gal Gadot. Premiering only in theaters February 11th.
This episode is brought to you by DirecTV Stream. Introducing DirecTV Stream, the best of live TV and on demand, which means you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. So whether you want to catch the game live or watch the latest blockbuster, they've got you covered. And there's no annual contract. DirecTV Stream. Get your TV together at directtv.com. Requires high-speed internet and compatible device. Content varies by package and location. Restrictions apply.
Make sure to check out Drink Champs, your #1 music podcast on the Black Effect Podcast Network. Hosts NORE and DJ EFN sat down with artist and icon Ye, which Vulture called one of 2021's most significant interviews.
I literally had to go like Thanos, and I don't want to have to be the villain, but when I went and did the Donda thing, Ye returned. And everybody had to sit back and watch the real leader.
Check out Drink Champs' conversation with Ye and many more legendary artists each and every Friday on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.
Hello, listeners. I'm your host, Amara, and this is Black Girl Gone, a true crime podcast. On this episode of Black Girl Gone, we tell the stories of two women who vanished without a trace, connected only by the fact that both women's cases remain unsolved and, for the most part, unknown. On April 24th, 2014, 23-year-old Kierra Stubbs disappeared from Birmingham, Alabama. The day Kierra was last seen, her brother dropped her off at a local store to meet a man who was supposed to fix her brakes. But no one ever saw Kierra again. 3 years later, and 900 miles away, 28-year-old Venika Williams disappeared from Newark, New Jersey. Venika was last seen on December 22, 2017. The families of these two women have been desperately searching for them, but with very little attention to their cases, they have been left with very few answers. Where are Kierra and Venika, and who is responsible for their disappearances? This is Kierra and Venika's story. Both of this week's stories were stories that were suggested to me. And the biggest challenge in telling stories like these is the fact that there isn't a lot of information. As a true crime storyteller, in order to tell full stories, I need enough information to develop a story. However, as this show grows, I feel a responsibility to still find a way to tell these stories, especially when a family or friend reaches out to me. This platform has grown to be more than just a true crime show. It's now a show that can help bring more attention to missing women and unsolved murders. When it comes to the disappearances of these two women, there isn't much public information about either of the women or their cases, but they are both missing, and therefore their stories need to be told, even if the information we have is limited. We have grown to a community of thousands of listeners from all over the country who may be able to help these families. Kierra and Venika have both been missing way too long, and their families need answers. For those who listen to the show, you know that I always like to talk about who these women were, their lives, their backgrounds. I feel like part of people relating to these women in a real way is for people to know who these women were. But in both of today's stories, we don't have much of that background information as we usually do. And so we're going to just focus on the information that we do have about the circumstances of their disappearances. In 2014, Kierra Stubbs was a 23-year-old mother of two children. Kierra had a son and a daughter who were 1 and 3 at the time. Kierra was living in Birmingham, Alabama. By all accounts, Kierra was a loving mother who took very good care of her children. Despite being a young mother with 2 small children, Kierra embraced her role as a mother. Kierra had a job, but there is no information about exactly where Kierra was working. However, one day while Kierra was at work, she met an older man whose name is not known. But according to Kierra's grandmother, Aura, she told CBS 42 that the relationship between this man and Kierra was strictly platonic. Kierra just thought that he was a nice guy. And I'm assuming wherever Kierra worked was probably either a store or maybe a restaurant. And I only assume that because it appears that this man was possibly a customer, perhaps a regular, who Kierra would have had enough time to kind of strike up a conversation with. But like I said, I don't know where Kierra was working. And so I really can't be sure the context of her meeting him at her job. But according to Aura, Kierra told her that he was a really nice guy and he had daughters and he needed some help. He needed someone to help him do their hair. Kierra, of course, had a daughter, and so she offered to help this man by doing his daughter's hair. Now, Kierra did have a car during this time, but it was in need of some repairs. I'm sure being a mom with two kids meant that the car was really important to her, but, car repairs can be very expensive. So when she met the older man at her job, he offered to pay for her brakes in exchange for her doing his daughter's hair. For Kierra, that seemed like a good deal. She'd help him by doing his daughter's hair, and for it, she would get her brakes fixed. Like Aura, Kierra's grandmother said that Kierra thought that this guy was, a really nice older man with children and he just needed help. She didn't have any suspicions that anything was off about him or that there was anything to be concerned about. Now, it's not clear, but there is some reporting that says that Kierra had in fact done the man's daughter's hair before. In an article on AL.com, her aunt Shantae Stubbs said that she had done this man's daughter's hair before and that they had spoken on the phone. However, the context of those conversations or how many times they spoke is not known. But from what I could gather, though, it seems as if Kierra had been acquainted with this man for some time before she disappeared. It's just not know how long. On April 24th, 2014, Kierra had made arrangements with the man to meet him so that he could give her money to purchase new brakes for her car. Now, some reports state that the man was actually going to do the brakes himself, and so it's not exactly clear what the entire purpose of the meeting that day was. Now, I assume the repairs her car needed was the reason why Kierra wasn't driving her own car that day. And so that day, Kierra and her brother and her son dropped off their little sister and her little brother at school. And then after dropping off their siblings, Kierra and her brother drove to a local shopping center called 5 Points West. Kierra was going to meet the older man at the Boost Mobile, which was located in the shopping center. Now, Kierra and her brother arrived at the shopping center around 9 a.m., and Kierra is seen on surveillance camera going into the Boost Mobile. Kierra enters the store and she looks around for a little while. Her brother waited in the car for her. Now, not long after arriving in the store, Kierra gets a phone call, which she answers. Footage shows Kierra then stepping outside to take the call, and then Kierra finishes the call and goes back into the store again. In the footage, you can see Kierra talking to the clerk, and at one point she laughs and she appears to be in really good spirits. Nothing seems to be wrong with Kierra or imply that she was nervous or unsure about anything. Now, a few minutes after Kierra hung up the phone and went back into the Boost Mobile, a burgundy Chrysler 200 pulls up in the parking lot. The car does not pull into a parking space, but instead he kind of parks parallel to the store. Now, the Chrysler 200 was being driven by the older man that Kierra was meeting. When the car pulls up, Kierra walks to the car's driver's side, and her and the driver have a brief conversation. And then Kierra walks around the front of the car and gets into the passenger side. Now, like I said, Kierra's brother had been waiting for her in the parking lot because apparently there was no plans for Kierra to get in this man's car and go anywhere. However, when Kierra does get in the car, the Chrysler pulls off and exits the 5 Point shopping center. Kierra's brother, who had been waiting for her, saw the car pull off, but as far as he knew, his sister had not planned to go anywhere with this man at that time. And if the reports about her son being in the car are accurate, then that means that she definitely would have said something to her brother if she was planning to go somewhere. And so her getting in the car and the car just pulling off was very strange to her brother. So strange, in fact, that he decided to follow the car to see where they were going. Now, Kierra's brother pulled out of the parking lot and started to follow the car, but according to her brother, when the car noticed that he was following it, it started to speed up, and eventually her brother lost sight of the vehicle. Kierra's brother decided to go back to the shopping center to wait for Kierra to return, but she never came back to the shopping center. Kierra did have a cell phone with her, and her brother tried to call her, but the calls to Kierra's phone were going unanswered. Kierra's family was immediately worried about her. She wasn't supposed to be going anywhere, and then she didn't come back, and now she's not answering the phone. Now, according to Aura, when her grandson, Kierra's brother, returned back to the home, he told her what happened. Somehow, they were able to track down the man that Kierra had left the shopping center with. But when Kierra's family spoke to this man on the phone, he told them that he dropped Kierra off, but where he said he dropped her off is unknown. But for Kierra's family, they knew that that didn't make any sense, and the fact that Kierra was not answering her phone made them very suspicious. So her family was worried before they spoke to this man, but after speaking to him, their suspicions were raised even higher. And so they decided to call the Birmingham Police Department to report that Kierra was missing. Now, according to Kierra's family, the Birmingham Police Department initially wasn't very attentive to Kierra's case, which is typical in these types of stories. And they believe that their lack of urgency caused them to lose potentially crucial evidence in those early hours and days after Kierra was last seen. Now, when Kierra got into the man's car, she didn't appear to have anything with her besides her phone. She was not carrying a purse or any type of bag, and so when she left in the car, she didn't even appear to have her charger. Once the Birmingham Police Department did get involved, they did search the area where Kierra was last seen. They went back to the store where she had met the man, and that's where they were able to get the surveillance footage from inside and outside of the store. The footage confirmed for police what Kierra's brother had already told them about that day. Investigators also went to local businesses in the area to see if they had any surveillance cameras, which they did. However, it's unknown what information, if any, was pulled from those cameras. But I'm not exactly sure what the police were looking for either. They knew that Kierra had left with the man in the Chrysler. You would think that he would be their primary suspect. Now, detectives have never said what, if anything, this man has told them about where Kierra was. After speaking to him, police would not release any information about this person, not even his name. They would only say that he's a person of interest. Kierra's family created their own campaign of missing persons flyers that they posted all over the Birmingham area. But days turned into weeks, and there was no sign of Kierra anywhere. No one believed that Kierra had just left, and so the possibility of foul play started to become more and more of a reality for both Kierra's family and investigators. Kierra was gone. What started off as a pretty normal day for Kierra ended with her family never seeing her again. The mystery of Kierra's disappearance is compounded by the fact that investigators claim they have no evidence. They claim that they don't have any evidence that the man whose car Kierra got in that day did anything to her. But as the years have gone by, Kierra's family has become increasingly more frustrated with the investigation. And outside of Birmingham, very few people have heard about Kierra's story. And even people in Birmingham don't know that Kierra is still missing. But there are still so many questions that exist in this case. Why won't the police name the person of interest? I mean, why won't they release the name of the person that was last known to have seen Kierra? Do investigators believe that it was just a coincidence that she was last seen getting to his car before she vanished? Did they search the vehicle, his home? Did they check the area where he claimed he had dropped her off to see if there had been any sightings of Kierra? Like I said before, it's hard to judge an investigation years later without all of the facts, but it seems to me like this investigation wasn't very much of a priority. They have over the years, though, asked the media and the public for assistance, but how could the public offer assistance when the police have refused to release any information about the case? The more information that is out there about a case, the more interest in the case. And so I really don't understand the strategy of telling the public as little information as possible while also asking the public for help. It's been 7 years since Kierra Stubbs vanished from the parking lot of a Boost Mobile after getting in a car with a man that was supposed to be helping her in exchange for doing his daughter's hair. Kierra's children were 1 and 3 when she vanished, and they have had to spend holidays and birthdays not knowing where their mother is. Kierra's children are older now. They know that their mom disappeared, and they miss her a lot. During an interview with CBS 42, her daughter said this.
I want her to come back home, and I miss her, and I love her, and we want her to come back. Now, me and my brother be thinking about it, and we be crying, and we want her to come back home so much.
I wish I could give you more of the story. I wish I could tell you about an extensive investigation, but I can't. And I'm not saying there wasn't an investigation. It just seems to me that this story has way more information about the initial disappearance than most missing person stories. I mean, we can see Kierra getting into the car that never brought her back, and then she was never seen again. In 2015, Kierra's family gave an interview to a local station, and at the time, the family was preparing to spend their second Christmas without Kierra. This year, they will be preparing to spend their eighth without her. And even though this interview took place the year after Kierra vanished, for her family, the sentiments are still the same.
We're not sleeping. We hardly ever eat. We get together on holidays, and holidays are supposed to be for family. You're supposed to be happy around holidays. How can we be happy not knowing where she's at or what kind of condition she's in?
Kierra Stubbs was 23 years old when she vanished. She would be 30 years old now. Kierra's case is now cold, but investigators say that they are still looking for any information about the circumstances of her disappearance. So, if you live in Birmingham and you have any information about what happened to Kierra on April 14th, 2014, or the circumstances of her disappearance, please contact the Birmingham Police Department. Warby Parker is committed to providing exceptional vision care online and in stores, offering eyeglasses, sunglasses, eye exams, and contact lenses. Glasses start at just $95, including prescription lenses. Try Warby Parker's free home try-on program. Order 5 pairs of glasses, try at home for free for 5 days. There's no obligation to buy. It ships free and includes a prepaid return shipping label. Don't let your FSA or your HSA dollars go to waste. Put them to good use on Warby Parker's prescription glasses, prescription sunglasses, contact lenses, and eye exams. So I went to the site, I took the quiz. First of all, it's super easy. All you have to do is answer a few questions about your style, and Warby Parker will show you a selection of frames to choose from. Once you pick the 5 that you want to try on, they'll send them right to you. So if you're looking for a new pair of stylish eyeglasses or sunglasses, you should definitely check out Warby Parker. You won't be disappointed. But even better than getting a great new pair of glasses, you can also help someone in need, because for every pair of glasses sold, Warby Parker distributes a pair of glasses to someone in need. Almost 1 billion people worldwide lack access to glasses. This means that 15% of the global population cannot effectively learn or work, which is crazy because glasses were invented 700 years ago. Warby Parker partners with nonprofits like Vision Springs to ensure that for every pair of glasses sold, a pair of glasses is distributed to someone in need. Try 5 pairs of glasses at home for free at warbyparker.com/girlgone. That's warbyparker.com/girlgone. The story of what happened to 28-year-old Venika Williams isn't much of a story because when it comes to Venika's disappearance, there's very little information about what happened to her. Now, I've received several messages about Venika's story, and so despite the very, very limited information about her case, I still wanted to cover her story because Venika has been missing for so long and her case has not gotten the attention that it deserves. The first thing, however, that I noticed about Venika's story was the date that she was last seen, December 22nd. And that's because that's the date that Jennifer Blackman was last seen 1 year ago. When Jennifer's friend messaged me, Jennifer had only been missing for a few months. And now here we are, a year later, and Jennifer is still missing. And so after you listen to this episode, take a few minutes to listen to Jennifer's story again. Jennifer's story is on episode 6 of the podcast. She is still missing, and her family and friends are desperately looking for her. In Venika's story, we know that Venika was living in Newark, New Jersey, and in 2017, Venika was a 28-year-old mother of 4 young children. From what I could gather, Venika came from a big, loving family, and so the day that she vanished was not only a mystery, but a complete nightmare for those who love Venika. According to the information that is publicly available about Venika's story, on December 22nd, 2017, it is believed that Venika was supposed to go to Jersey City, New Jersey, so that she could do someone's hair. Now, whose hair she was supposed to do is unknown. Interestingly enough, it seems as though Venika's family did not know that she was going to Jersey City and only found out after she went missing. And so no one knows if Venika ever went to Jersey City. The little reporting that does exist about Venika's disappearance says that she was last seen in the 100 block of Dayton Street in Newark. But there's no information about whether she was last seen in a home on that block or on the street or in a car. But Venika was never seen again. On January 4th, 2018, Venika was reported missing by a family member. Now, the information out there indicates that Venika's family wasn't aware that she was missing until someone spoke to her children's father, who told them that Venika had gone to Jersey City to see a client and had not returned. And so the last time that Venika was seen was almost 2 weeks before she was reported missing. Now, there's absolutely no information about Venika after the 22nd of December 2017. It's really like Venika just vanished into thin air. In cases like this, when police refuse to release information or take the case seriously, then it's very, very important for the family of the missing to be their voice. The reality is that people are nosy, and the more information that they find about these cases, the more interest follows. I know that sounds crazy because people should just care regardless, but people are people. And the more information people have, the more likely they are to care, as crazy as that seems. And so investigators, again, asking the public for help without giving the public any information is really counterproductive. Investigators have released no information about Venika's disappearance, and for the most part, the local media has ignored Venika's case. There are very few articles about Venika's disappearance, and so the mystery of her story still remains. There have been several rumors surrounding Venika's story, but none of them have been confirmed. Now, Venika's family created a Facebook page and they named it Help Find Venika. And on that page, there was a post that states that the last message from Venika said that she was being held against her will by an unknown man. But outside of the Facebook group, no other information exists about this text. But then again, outside the Facebook group, very little information exists, period. It has been 4 years now, and there are no more answers about what happened to Venika than there was 4 years ago. But that doesn't make her story any less important. Venika was a mother, and although we don't know anything about Venika's life, her family knows that Venika did not just leave her children voluntarily. Venika was a young woman, a mother, whose children have now spent 4 years without her. I think the fact that so many people reached out to me about Venika's story and a story that I had never heard of means that there are a lot of people that care and want to help Venika's family find her. If you are a friend or a family member of Venika and you're listening to this episode, do not give up. Keep posting her story. Keep telling people what happened. Tell Venika's story every chance that you get. We can't make the police care and we can't make the media care, but we can care. If you were like me and you had not heard the name Venika Williams before now. You know that she's been missing for 4 long years, and there has been no significant information about her disappearance. Now, Venika was last seen in Newark, New Jersey. She was wearing a leather jacket, blue jeans, and carrying a red purse. Venika is 5'3", and she has a tattoo on her left hand that says Tanisha. There are thousands of missing Black women in this country, and so many of them have stories that no one knows. Both Kierra and Venika are mothers. Between them, there are 6 children who have had to spend years without their mom and without any answers. The families of these 2 women have not given up finding them. When someone is missing, time really only makes things worse, because every day is another day with no answers. They can't mourn. They can't move on. They're just stuck. Now, Christmas is Saturday, and if you celebrate Christmas, then you'll probably be with your family and friends this weekend. You will sit on Christmas morning and watch your kids open their presents. It's a time to celebrate. It's a time to be thankful. But I want you to remember the families of those who are missing and how much holidays are not the same for them without their loved ones and without any answers. So, if you live in Birmingham or Newark, Take another look at Kierra and Venika's pictures. Listen to their stories. If you know anything, if you've seen anything, you can reach out to the police in these cities. We can help these women's families, at least bring attention to their stories and the mysteries surrounding their disappearances.
Those eyes, they convince me that there is so much more to know. My mystery girl. My mystery girl. My mystery girl. Oh, my mystery girl. Said I'd never do it again.
I'm Colleen Witt. Join me, the host of Eating While Broke podcast, while I eat a meal created by self-made entrepreneurs, influencers, and celebrities over a meal they once ate when they were broke.
Today I have the lovely AJ Crimson, the official princess of Compton, Asia,
Kid Ink, and Asia.
This is the professor. We're here on Eating While Broke, and today I'm gonna break down my meal that got me through a time when I was broke.
Listen to Eating While Broke on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Make sure to check out Drink Champs, your #1 music podcast on the Black Effect Podcast Network. Hosts NORE and DJ EFN sat down with artist and icon Ye, which Vulture called one of 2021's most significant interviews.
I literally had to go like Thanos, and I don't want to have to be the villain, but when I went and did the Donda thing, Ye returned. And everybody had to sit back and watch the real leader.
Check out Drink Champs' conversation with Ye and many more legendary artists each and every Friday on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.